Hello, everyone. Today's topic is how to deal with anger, what Buddha taught. Anger is something that can trouble us deeply, and so throughout human history, people have sought ways to control or reduce their anger. 2,600 years ago, Sakyamuni taught a variety of different ways to deal with this fiery emotion. Today, let us explore something Buddha taught that will allow you to better control and restrain your anger. Just knowing this important point will deepen your understanding of anger and help you to keep your anger in check. Today, I will talk about the following 3 points. 1. Anger is dangerous. 2. How anger influences our surroundings. 3. How anger influences the self. Sakyamuni Buddha persistently taught that anger is a highly dangerous thing. He taught that it is one of the 3 poisonous passions. What exactly does this mean? The blind passions are states that trouble and torment us, and all in all, there are 108 of these. Of the 108 blind passions, there are 3 that are particularly harmful to us: greed, anger, and ignorance. These are the 3 poisonous passions. Anger is considered one of these because when left unchecked, it can bring us dreadful suffering. When anger blazes up within us, we immediately start pointing the finger at others. I'm suffering because of him. It's her fault that I'm hurting like this. But actually, more than that other person, it's our own anger that is making us suffer. If only we were unable to get angry, it would save us so much pain. This being the case, knowing how to control our anger is very important. In order to do that, what we need to be mindful of is the fact that anger is poisonous. Of course, poison is something we want to avoid consuming due to the serious effects it can have on us. If, say, we were shown data that clearly laid out the ways in which junk food and cola are poison and might increase our risk of cancer, that might startle us into permanently omitting those from our diet.
No.
So what is most effective at getting us to stop smoking or stop eating unhealthy things is knowing just how much harm it does to our bodies, knowing that it is poison. If you find out a snack you love has carcinogens in it, you're probably not going to want to keep eating it. In the same way, knowing just how much harm anger does to us will make us want to control our anger.
I see.
Therefore, it's really important for us to know in what ways anger really is a poison. The reason why we go ahead and explode in anger at people is that we think it is right for us to do so. We tell ourselves that venting our fury and even getting violent is the only way we can get through to the other person. The truth is, however, that we are only poisoning ourselves by doing so. Knowing this, then, is key for making a change. It is taught that anger causes injury to everyone, both to the recipient and to the one who is blazing up in fury. Everyone suffers a loss because of anger. If we accidentally drop some money, we see that as a loss. Getting angry is actually a loss in just the same way, in that it is something that makes us unhappy. More precisely, Buddhism teaches that if we upset others by lashing out in anger at them, we are making ourselves suffer by doing so. Nobody involved benefits from the situation. It is an all-round loss. Let's talk about how anger negatively affects others. First of all, having an angry person around is highly unpleasant for anyone caught up in the situation. When someone starts yelling angrily, those around them will cringe, making clear their discomfort. If there's someone who is angry or in a bad mood in the workplace, their colleagues have to tread on eggshells around them to avoid becoming the target of their anger. This produces a very tense and unpleasant atmosphere. No one will even be in the mood to crack jokes. All the more so if the angry person is someone in a superior position that will put a terrible strain on everybody. In this way, being angry in the workplace sours the mood for everyone, which can negatively affect productivity. If the workplace is a public-facing one, it can make things awkward for customers too. One time I was at a restaurant that I'd visit from time to time, and the owner of the establishment started shouting really loudly at a member of the kitchen staff. I turned to look in the direction of the noise, and I could see slightly into the kitchen. The owner was really losing it at this person over what actually didn't sound like much of a big deal. It was so unpleasant to experience this while I was trying to enjoy my food, and it gave me a bad impression of the owner. Even though I wasn't involved myself, I felt the owner was acting too emotionally, and that it just wasn't necessary to blow up like this. It was an awkward and unpleasant situation for everyone else there too, not only those who were directly involved. I thought perhaps the owner might be oblivious to how badly this was ruining the atmosphere for both me and the other customers, that they'd gone to the effort of doing things like putting on pleasant background music and placing ornamental plants around, and this was clearly done to improve the atmosphere. When customers dine at a restaurant, it is not only the flavor of the food they are served that is important. They also need to feel at ease and enjoy the atmosphere. That is what will attract them to the restaurant and keep them coming back too. If someone is shouting and screaming in the kitchen, how can anyone there feel at ease? To blow up in public like this, the owner must have simply become overcome with their own rage and ended up incapable of rational thought or consideration. That is, after all, the kind of effect that intense anger has on you. Although this used to be a place I went to from time to time, I never went back there again after this incident. They lost a good customer. It's possible whatever the staff member did wrong could cause some harm to the restaurant, but that's hardly anything at all compared to driving good, paying customers away by loudly lashing out in anger like the owner did. We need to be aware that exploding in fury can have serious negative effects, not only for the target of our anger, but also for everyone who happens to be around at that time. This is particularly true in the case of parents. Hearing both parents verbally abuse each other can do terrible damage to a child. Research done by Harvard University shows that children living in households with parents who constantly argue with each other suffer toxic levels of stress. Children who hear violent acts or words being exchanged between parents over a number of years may suffer a 16% loss of brain function in their visual cortex, according to data. To a child, a parent is someone they admire and respect. Hearing both parents shouting about each other's flaws is unbearable for them. It's a huge shock to their system and causes them immense stress, to the point where it even causes atrophy of the brain. Clearly, hostility between parents has a terrible negative influence on a child. Children are innocent and just want to have fun and play, and they are very sensitive to bitterness or animosity in the household. Constantly witnessing it can cause a child to become quiet, withdrawn, and uninterested in play. It also negatively affects them into adulthood. Whether at the workplace or at home, being in an environment where people are frequently speaking and acting in anger has all sorts of bad effects on a person. We need to be mindful of the pain we can cause others when we put our anger on display. If instead of lashing out, we make an effort to restrain our anger, reminding ourselves of how inappropriate it would be to just act on this emotion, that will actually make things more peaceful for everyone. Of course, it might bring us some level of stress to have to suppress our anger at first, but we need to realize that by doing so, we save the people around us from the stress of being near an angry person. Stomping around angrily and wearing a face of thunder puts everyone else around us on edge, which is deeply unpleasant for them. Put yourself in their shoes. Do you think it would be nice to have a friend or partner who is always grumpy and scowling? Would it be fun to live near to such a person, or to have them as your roommate? Of course not. That would just be tiresome and upsetting. So it's really important to keep in mind that if we always allow ourselves to have our anger on display and take it out on others, that makes everyone around us suffer. It's like we're throwing poison at them. It's only going to do them harm. On top of hurting others, our anger makes us unhappy. In fact, anger is said to be even worse for our health and beauty than junk food and cola. This is because anger negatively affects our immune strength. Immune strength is of huge importance to our well-being, particularly during pandemics like that of coronavirus, and there are 3 things that reduce our immune strength. One of them is age. As we grow older, our immune strength decreases. Another factor is lifestyle habits. If our sleeping hours are irregular or we eat nothing but junk food and sweets, this can cause our immune strength to drop. And another factor is anger. It has been medically proven that anger actually reduces our immune strength. You see, our immune strength is boosted by our parasympathetic nervous system, and anger activates the opposing sympathetic nervous system. When that is activated, our parasympathetic nervous system takes a back seat. This means that our immune response is actually lowered. Alarmingly, one moment's anger stimulates the sympathetic nervous system so intensely that it takes 3 hours for it to return to normal. This means that if you get angry 10 times in one day, your sympathetic nervous system will end up constantly agitated for that whole day. So anyone who is constantly getting angry, whether at work or at home, will have greatly reduced immune strength that whole time as a result. This will, of course, make that person more susceptible to infection and so more likely to become seriously ill due to viruses like coronavirus. Anger also has the effect of thickening the blood. This is because it leads to an increase in free radicals, which produces a state called oxidative stress, an effect of which is inflammation. Because of this, blood flow is reduced, increasing blood pressure. This in turn can trigger a heart attack or a stroke. Clearly, then, anger is extremely bad for our health. It's also a great enemy of beauty. Free radicals can cause blemishes and sagging skin. So if someone is constantly angry, that'll cause a constant release of free radicals, which will negatively affect their appearance. It causes wrinkles. Now there are frown lines, and laugh lines are endearing. Just think of an old woman smiling cutely. If you compare people who have wrinkles from smiling a lot with people who have wrinkles from frowning a lot, the latter will seem more difficult to approach. So anger does no good and plenty of harm to our beauty and health. I'd like you to be aware that no matter how hard you may strive to exercise and go on diets, if you're just angry all day, that will have a significantly negative effect on your health. Even just from the standpoint of health and beauty, anger really does do us harm. Buddhism compares anger to flames. The flames of anger burn everything to the ground. Just as it only takes a single match to start a fire, it only takes a moment's anger to burn down everything around us in the blink of an eye. It is said that anger begins with thoughtlessness and ends in regret. In other words, anger completely blinds us to the consequences of an angry outburst. Logical thought goes out the window. Our heads become filled with only what's in front of us as our blood boils, and we say things we shouldn't say. When we're in a rational state of mind, we can give consideration to when and where it's appropriate to say what, and realize we shouldn't say this thing to this person at this time. We restrain ourselves. But when we blaze up in anger, all rationality is blown away, and we blurt out those things we shouldn't say. We also do things we shouldn't do. What causes us to raise a hand to someone or say awful things to them is our anger. When we lash out like that, whether verbally or physically, we might be made redundant or fired, or it might lead to a divorce. If we say inappropriate things to our spouse or our boss out of anger, then that may spell the end for us. That happens when blood rushes to our head, so anger is really unstoppable. And afterwards, we regret our actions. Oh, why did I go and say that? I wish I hadn't said that. It's like we're standing alone in burnt-out ruins after having set it all ablaze, shedding tears of regret. In one fell swoop, our words and actions burn all the trust we have built up to the ground. This shows just how dreadful our anger is. This is why Buddhism teaches that anger is a fire that destroys everything. Getting angry is like pulling a trigger on our own selves. We really do have to be careful of our anger. We need to be keenly aware that anger is a highly powerful poison and make sure to control and restrain our anger. So today, I talked about Sakyamuni Buddha's teaching on how dangerous anger is. Well, actually, he went a lot deeper into specifics regarding how to control our anger, but it's very important for you to know about why anger is so dangerous, first of all. Without that, you won't feel the need to exercise so much self-restraint when it comes to anger, you see. That's why I wanted to tell you about how damaging anger is today. I will talk more on anger another time. On this channel, I make videos explaining the Buddhist teachings. If you want to know more about the true happiness that transcends anger, then I'd be delighted if you'd subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching this video.